Yo, there's a lot going on in the world right now. And there's one thing I want to have a look at, one thing I want to talk about. So I'm going to read this excerpt from a book I'm currently reading called The Singularity is Near. Yes, in the last video I mentioned how I wanted to get into content and video and all that. But let's read this excerpt and then we'll get into it. So, the bridge to 3D molecular computing. Intermediate steps are already underway. New technologies that will lead to the sixth paradigm of molecular three-dimensional computing include nanotubes and nanotube circuitry, molecular computing, self-assembly in nanotubes, biological systems emulating circuit assembly, computing with DNA, spintronics, which is computing with the spin of electrons, computing with light, and quantum computing. Many of these independent technologies can be integrated into computational systems that will eventually approach the theoretical maximum capacity of matter and energy to perform computation and will far outpace the computational capacities of the human brain. This is a very heavy subject matter, but I want to look at it from this context, or from this is the question that I want to read through that paragraph that I just read. And the question is, does the future of content exist, or does content exist in the future? My answer to that is no. Why do I say this? Everything evolves. Our ancestors never would have imagined that they didn't have to sit around a fire to hear stories anymore. The invention of radio and television. Our more recent ancestors never would have imagined that we would voluntarily watch movies on screens much smaller than what TVs were back in the day. The evolution of the smartphone. Like, at some point, we literally had to sit down and redraw, repaint reality or the picture in front of you for you to have a recreation of it. Nowadays, you just pull out a device, a few gestures, and you have the recreation of the reality you are looking at. Through all of these changes in history, the most important thing was the evolution of the hardware. And right now, I feel like we have peaked in terms of hardware. We do not need any more pixels in any of our devices, be it cameras on DSLR or whatever it is, cell phones. We do not need any more pixels. If we want to look further, we have telescopes. We want to look deeper, we have microscopes. And one thing that is evidence to the fact that we have peaked in terms of hardware is how imaging has become a software heavy task, where in the past it used to be a hardware heavy task. All these filters and edits that we need to add to our images speak to the fact that we need to manipulate reality to be able to feel anything, which is scary. But further down the rabbit hole we go. So, the next hardware evolution changes how we consume and create content. For this to happen, the biggest change that needs to happen is the pixel. At the moment, the pixel is simply color information. For us to move forward, we need to change what information the pixel holds. More than just what, we need to change how much information the pixel is able to hold. I'm actually going to read a lot of the stuff I wrote here because I'm trying to keep my thoughts coherent, and it'll make this easier for you listening, make it easier for you watching. So at the moment, there's already software that allows us to identify objects within images. So software like Google Lens or Circle to search. Now these work on a Shazam-like principle where it takes the image you have input, and then it compares it to a database of already existing images, then gives you a result from that. So what if we changed how much information each pixel holds? So what if all of that information was being carried in each single pixel and not the full image? An example for this is a pixel knowing its position, not just in relation to other pixels, but also to the makeup of the captured image. This means that the pixel knows that it is a dot creating a shadow on the left side of a person's nose. And the pixel knows its position as related to other parts of their nose. It knows why it is the shade that it is. The person being light-skinned or dark-skinned. A pixel then has context. This is why I read that excerpt from the Singularity about 3D modeling. It is a key part in this being able to exist. The pixel knows its existence in a 3-dimensional plane. On top of this, we would need to add dormant color information, meaning the pixel always has every color's information, not just the colors it is assigned to capture. This means that the pixel only adapts the color needed like a chameleon would. So current sensors work pretty much on the same principle, but not to the extent that is needed for the next hardware evolution. So current sensor has RGB assignment to it. Each pixel has red, green, and blue assigned to it. Once you press that capture shutter button and light hits the sensor, the pixel then decides what color it needs to be based off of the image that it is recreating. But once that image is captured, the pixel is then frozen in that state. What needs to happen is the pixel needs to remain fluid. Thus, it is always carrying every color's information at all time. Now, this becomes a huge database for a pixel to be able to carry. I don't know what amount of data pixels currently carry, but that is a major change that needs to happen. The pixel needs to remain fluid. Current AI like Sora create images from words, so they are able to associate words and images or imaginations. What I'm reading now is my own writing. The first reading I did was from the book. Everything here on out is my own imaginations. So this becomes an important tech for the future of content creation. But it is only a piece. Sora would be the main source for the ordinary civilian. I imagine Sora to be the software that we as ordinary people use, not so much on a commercial level or business level. And there needs to be a differentiation in the levels of value. Companies like Paramount and Sony and all these studios will need the IMAX effect, the premium effect. Or the premium version of all of this. The manipulatable pixel and hardware involved in imprinting information onto the pixel become the pillars on which Sora stand on and the premium version. So the process works as follows. A video is captured using this new hardware device that allows for fluid pixels. The video is entered into Sora. Sora then told to manipulate certain pixels to change how the video looks. The difference is that each pixel can now hold as much data or information, commands as possible. An example of this would be Nike creates a new advert for a new campaign for whatever item of clothing it is, shoes maybe. These adverts are always shot in context. Now, if each pixel is holding information about the three-dimensional realm it's existing in, once the video has been shot, we can now directly input commands into this image that we've created, so that if we're sending the advert to the Arab market, that rock that sits in the background of the advert might be offensive to someone in the Arab region. An example, my Arab people do not take offense, inshallah. Or the color of the shoes may be offensive to someone in the African market, or someone in South Africa, or in Zambia, or in Congo. Specific parts of it can be manipulated so as not just to remove offensive content, but to create context for each viewer that is watching the content. This could be done through minor details, minor commands sent to each pixel. Now, each pixel is then able to change within the context of the frame. You no longer have to shoot multiple versions of the same thing. I'm getting passionate. I've gone into the example. So it creates a world where content becomes, what's the word I'm looking for? Personalized. Every single person is able to consume content specifically created for them. Now, those commands that each pixel would then require to make these commands or these changes applicable come from a database, and the database of preferences already exists. It has largely been collected over the years by Meta through Instagram, Facebook, and WhatsApp. This data becomes useful to sell personalized ads. A dangerous world, a very dangerous world. But if we are to use everything we have collected, everything we have created in the past, this is the way to go. So part of this world that I imagine already manifesting, for instance, in QLED TVs, for instance, a step forward or a step towards this world. Cell phone screens would need to become compatible with this mercurial fluid-like content. I don't know how the device that captures this content looks like. So I know someone, or a friend of a friend, owns a company. It's called the Scan Truck. So the Scan Truck is a collection of about 200 cameras, all placed in like a spherical space that allows them to capture whatever object placed in the middle and then recreate it in an avatar, a three-dimensional avatar. This is a hack to what the future really looks like. But it is using 200 people to dig a hole when we have a caterpillar digger a diesel-powered caterpillar digger that can do it on its own with one man manning it, and maybe a second for supervision. But that is one of the hardware changes that would need to happen. I'm kind of nervous presenting this. That's why I laugh. So I can't say for sure what the hardware will look like, but it will be an interesting world when infinite versions can be coded from a single recording. Recording is important for integrity purposes. Integrity and ethics is something I can't discuss, but the recording of the object, the thing being recreated, creates a boundary when we're talking ethics and how far people can take it, deep fakes and all of that stuff. So if this is ever achieved, we could be in trouble because the world becomes more personalized. Or it could be a good thing. Who knows? Now, this could be an invention, or it could just be me rambling. If it is, if no one has explored this technology in the context that I have spoken about it in, I would like to claim it as my own, and anyone recreating this device, this technology that I'm speaking of, will be liable to investigation and possibly liable to fines and consequences of stealing someone's thoughts, imagination, IP. I believe that this should be enough to qualify as what used to be thesis papers and what else do they call them? Patents. Because there are many social contracts that we adhere to that aren't explicitly stated. Why should this be any different? That's just my 2 cents. That's just my mind on where I think hardware and technology goes. And content does not exist because it will not be created in the same way it is being created right now. Yeah. The name's Alex, spelled Lekiksi. If you ask, you might find out why. Peace.